Okay, so we're going to take a look now at question 8, 11, 14, 17, page 302, and then we move on to page 306, question 4 and 5, and 307, 9 and 12. Okay, 302, question 8. The circle x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus 6 equals 0 contains 2 points P and Q. Find the value of A and the value of B. Straight away, if I'm asked to get the value of A and the value of B, if I'm asked to get two values, I need two equations in those variables. If I want to solve for A and B, I need two equations in A and B. Now the one thing here we're told is x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c, isn't it? Or plus 6 I should say, is equal to 0. That is the circle that contains the points P, which is 1, 1, and Q, which is the point 3, 2. Now, if a circle contains the points, then we have to remember when we put the points into the equation of the circle, the left-hand side will be the same as the right-hand side. So I'm looking to build equations in A and B. So in the first one, I'm going to put 1 and 1 in for x and for y. 1 goes in for x, that gives me 1. 1 goes in for y, that gives me 1. Then that gives me 1a and 1b plus 6 is equal to 0. Which gives me the first of my equations. A plus B equals, now 1 and 1 is 2 and 6 is 8, but 8 on the right hand side is minus 8, and that's equation number 1. I need to get one more equation in A and B, so I'm going to do the same with 3 and 2. 3 in there, that gives me 9, plus 2 squared is 4. 3 goes in for x, that's 3a. 2 goes in for y, that's 2b, plus 6 is equal to 0. So that gives me another equation, and that gives me 3a plus 2b is equal to, now 6 and 9 is 15 and 4 is 19. So we bring that across and it becomes minus 19. So they're the two equations I'm going to use, and I got to solve these things now simultaneously. Okay, neither of them have opposing signs, so I suppose the easiest thing to do here would be to multiply the top line by minus 3. And when you multiply the top line by minus 3, you'll get minus 3a minus 3b is equal to minus 3 by minus 8 plus 24. Underneath that then, keep the second equation the same, plus 2b equals minus 19. And when you do that, the a's cancel. See? Minus 3b plus 2b is minus b, and 24 minus 19 is 5. So if minus b is 5, b must be minus 5. Now once you've found b, you have to find the corresponding a value. And the quickest way to do that is to take b back into one of the original equations that we had. So take it back to one of these two. It doesn't matter which one. Let's take the easiest one, the top one, and put it in and see what happens. So we end up getting a, b is minus 5, is equal to minus 8. So therefore a is equal to minus 8 plus 5, which is minus 3. And there's your value of a and your value of b. Now do you notice the question says find the value of a and the value of b, so there's only one value for both of those. So that was based on simultaneous equations, but also based on the knowledge that if a point is on a circle, then the point is placed into the circle and two equations are delivered in A and B, which we solve simultaneously. So that's number 8. Number 11, whoops, get rid of that. Number 11, I want to move the page up a little bit here. Yeah, move the page up. Okay, so number 11, question 11. Find the range of values. Now when you hear that, a range of values, then you know you're going to be dealing with an inequality, okay? For which the point P, which is A3, lies inside the circle. And what's the circle? X squared plus y squared plus 6x minus 2y minus 6 is equal to 0. Now, if the point P is inside the circle, that means that the left-hand side is going to be smaller than the right-hand side. See? So what I mean by that is when you put A3 into this equation here, the left hand side will become smaller than the right hand side, because that's what a point that lies inside the circle does. It gives a smaller left hand side to the right hand side. So let's do that and see what happens. We put a in for x, so we get a squared. 3 goes in for y, that's 9. A goes in for x, that's 6a. 3 goes in for y, that's minus 6, and minus 6 again, and this time it must be less than 0 because it's inside the circle. Okay, now work this out as a quadratic equation. 9 take 6 is 3, take 6 again is minus 3. So we get a squared plus 6a, and then as we said already, minus 3 is less than 0, because 9 minus 6 and minus 6 again. Okay, and then it says it wants you to give the answers in third form. Okay, well, we'll do that. And if they ask you for answers in third form, that means that you're going to be using the minus b formula, because we have a quadratic equation. Okay, just get rid of that there. Now let's take this. We're going to use the minus b formula, and the way I know we have to use the minus b formula is because the answers have to be given as minus n minus 2 root n, and the second answer then is given as minus n plus 2 root n. Okay, so that's a hint as to what form your answers should take. So let's take this into the minus b formula and see what we end up with. So we get minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. A is 1, b is 6, and c is minus 3. So a is 1, b is 6, and c is minus 3. So you put these three values into this formula here, and what do you get? Minus 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 times 1 times minus 3 all over 2 times 1. Okay, just move that up a little bit. Let's work on that. Okay, so working on this, minus 6 plus or minus the square root of what? Well, 36 plus 12, see that? Because minus 4 times minus 3 is plus 12. So 36 plus, that's 48. And that's all over 2. Which means the two answers I have, if you remember what we said about this already in terms of the square root of 48, if you just tap that into your calculator, if you tap in the square root of 48, it'll simplify it for you down to 4 root 3. See that? And that's what you use instead of root 48. So we get minus 6 plus or minus 4 root 3 all over 2. Now, what's that going to give me? Well, that's going to give me, first of all, divide 2 into both numbers. 2 into minus 6 goes minus 3 times, plus or minus 4 into 2, or 2 into 4 goes twice, root 3. And look what happens. Aren't they the same answers? You see that? They're exactly the same. So in other words, n is after the minus sign, and the same number must be under the square root sign. So the two answers I have here are minus 3 plus 2 root 3 and minus 3 minus 2 root 3. So what does the question tell you to do? Give your answer back in the form of minus n minus 2 root n. So they want you to do minus 3 minus 2 root 3 less than a, which in turn is less than minus 3 plus 2 root 3. And that's just giving the answer in exactly the same form as the question dictates. Okay, so again, you're building your quadratic equation from the fact, if we just go back here a little bit, from the fact that if the point is inside the circle, then when you put the point into the equation, the left hand side will become smaller than the right hand side, which leads you to using the less sign. See that? Less than. So the right hand side will be less than the left hand side, which, as we know, is an inequality. So we solve the quadratic equation that results by using the minus b formula, and the answers then we get are minus 3 plus, actually, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to change over the signs here just to make sure that we put the bigger one first. That's what we should always do. Always put the bigger one first. So we get minus 3 minus 2 root 3 and minus 3 plus 2 root 3. They're the two answers. So you simply put them into the form that the book tells you as minus 3 minus 2 root 3 less than or equal to a less than or equal to minus 3 plus 2 root 3. Okay, next question. So that's number 11. Number 14. Number 14 says find the value, so again just one value of t such that 1t lies on the circle. Now if you're asked for one value, Well, that means you only have to come up with a linear equation in t. So t is your focus, okay? So number 14, here's what we get. We're told that the point 1t lies on the circle. See that? It's on the circle. Now what's the equation of the circle in number 14? It's x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 8y plus 11 equals to 0. Now where's the hint here? It's on the circle. What does that mean? If it's on the circle, the left hand side of the equation will be equal to the right hand side of the equation when you put the point into the equation. So you're going to put 1 in for x. That becomes 1 squared, which is 1. T goes in for y, so that gives me t squared. 1 goes in for x here, which gives me 4. T goes in here for y, which gives me minus 8t plus 11 equals 0. And there's where the equals comes in. Now again, you notice this is a quadratic equation in t. So we get t squared minus 8t. 1 and 4 is 5 and 11 is 16. And that's equal to 0. So I am this time going to open up my two brackets. T squared is t by t. Factors of 16 that add to 8 are 4 and 4. But I want them to add to minus 8, so they both must be minus 4. Meaning that t is equal to 4 for this bracket and t is equal to 4 for that bracket. So there is only one value of t, and that is 4. Okay, so that's question 14. Question 17. Find, again, the range of values. So again, now we know that we're going to be dealing with an inequality. Okay, so when you hear range of values, you know you're going to be using less than or greater than. So what are we told? Of k, such that the point 7k lies outside. So here we go again. The circle x minus 4 to be squared plus y plus 3 to be squared is equal to 45. Now again, the same thing. If 7k lies outside, what does that mean? That means the left hand side of my equation will be bigger than the right hand side of my equation when I put the point into the equation. Alright, so if it's outside, it'll give you a bigger left hand side. If it was on, it'll give you the same left hand side, and if it was inside, it would give you a smaller left hand side. So in this case, I'm going to put 7 in for x. 7 minus 4 is 3. 3 squared, 9. Plus, k is going to go in for y. So there's nothing much I can do there. It stays k plus 3 to be squared. And that's equal to 45. So I'm going to again, or I should say it's greater than, isn't it? Because, let me just take that out there, because of the fact that we're dealing with an inequality. So it's greater than 45. Okay, let's tidy this up. K squared plus 3. So 9 plus, this is a binomial. You can square a binomial. K squared, multiply these two, that's 3k, double the result, 6k, plus 9, greater than 45. Now, if you want to work with a quadratic equation, the quadratic equation must be set equal to 0. So the 45 must be brought over to the left hand side. So 9 and 9 is 18, and 18 minus 45, trusty little calculator here, gives me minus 27. So I get k squared plus 6k minus 27 greater than 0. So what do I do in a situation like this? I just solve it as normal, as if it was equal to 0. I'll worry about the greater than in a moment, okay? So k squared is k by k. Now, factors of 27 with a difference of 6 between them. Well, 9 threes are 27, and they have a difference of 6 between them. And I want the difference to be plus 6. So plus 9 minus 3, giving me k equals minus 9, or k is equal to 3. Now, because it's an inequality, we have to go to the number line for this. Okay, so we actually have to draw out the number line and put these two values on the number line. So minus 9 is down here and 3 would be up here somewhere. In order to work out whether I shade between those two numbers or outside those two numbers, I have to see if 0 is available, and it is. 0 is in here somewhere. Okay, 0 is there probably. So what that means is I'm going to test 0 back in the inequality. So you bring 0 back to the inequality here, and you see what happens when you plug it into the inequality. 0 goes in for k, so that becomes 0, that becomes 0, and I end up with this. Minus 27 is greater than 0, which is false. That's a rubbish statement. That's false. And if it's false, what that means is that I'm going to shade this way. Now just be careful. Am I allowed to include 9 and 3, minus 9 and 3? Well, look at the original sign. The original sign was just greater than. There's no equals. So I'm going to exclude minus 9, and I'm going to exclude 3, but I'm going to shade everything to the left of that and everything to the right of that. So how do I write down that answer? This is where some people get a bit stuck. How do I write down that answer? The answer is the following. All the k values here are going to be less than minus 9, and all the k values here are going to be greater than plus 3. And you put the word "and" in between them. So there's one set of answers, and there's the other set of answers. And it says to give you the range. So the range will be everything below minus 9 but not including it, and everything above plus 3 but not including it. Okay, so that was question 17 on page 302. So there are the 302 questions done. Now let's move on, and let's go to I think I might have to go to a new page here, because that's basically stopped letting me scroll. So let's go to a new page. Good. Okay, so we'll now go to page 306, and I want to take a look at question 4 and 5. Okay, so page 306, question 4. M is the line. So again, you start taking notes. This is question 4. M is the line x plus 7y minus 4 is equal to 0. And n is the circle, which is x squared plus y squared equals 10. Now just make sure I've got the right ones written down, because sometimes when I'm jumping to and fro I get the wrong figures. Number 4, x plus 7y minus 4, n x squared plus y squared equals 10. Find the points of intersection. Now you want to find out the points. Do you notice that? It's plural. The points of intersection. So what does that tell me? That means that there's going to be 2 values of x and there's going to be 2 values of y, meaning I need to get a quadratic equation in either x or y, because that's the only way I'm going to get 2 values. So you've got to read these questions carefully. It's points of intersection. If you have a line and a circle and you want to find out where they touch each other, yeah, where they intersect, you squash them together. Now what does that mean? You rearrange the linear equation and you stick it into the circle's equation. So what I mean by that is, let's take m down here, and we've got x plus 7y minus 4 is equal to 0. Now what that means is that x is equal to minus 7y plus 4. So in other words, I have discovered x, albeit not as a number, but I have discovered x in terms of y. So once I discover something, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take that value for x back up here into the circle's equation and put it in for x. Because then what that will do is it'll replace the x with y, giving you a quadratic equation in y that we can solve. So let's take a look at that. Let's see what happens when we do that. We're going to put minus 7y plus 4 in here, and we get minus 7y plus 4 to be squared, because it's going in there, plus y squared equals 10. You know how to square a binomial, I hope, at this stage. Minus 7y, square that first. That gives me 49y squared. Multiply the two of these together. 7 fours are 28, and twice 28 is 56. So minus 56y, and then square the last term, plus 16 plus y squared, and I'm going to bring this over here, minus 10 equals 0. And if you're wondering why am I going to equal 0, all quadratics must be set equal to 0 if you want to solve them. So tidy this up. We get 49 squared and y squared, that's 50y squared. We get minus 56y squared, or sorry, minus 56y, and then we get plus 16 minus 10, which is a plus 6, equals 0. So now I can divide across by 2, and that will give me 25y squared minus 28y plus 3 is equal to 0, which might just make it that little bit easier for us to solve. Divide across by 2. Okay, so let's open the brackets and see what we can do here. And I always test brackets. You can go straight to the minus b formula if you wish, but brackets sometimes are a little easier. Now I want 28, so I'm going to have, let me see, 25 times 1. Yeah, I'm going to have 25y and y, and I'm going to have 3 and 1. Because 25 times 1 is 25, 3 times y is 3y, 25 and 3 is 28. And both of them are to be negative, which gives me the first answer. Y is 3 over 25, or y is equal to 1. Now, obviously, rotten answers, but something you can do with that. You've got to use fractions if they're given to you, and you've got to find the corresponding values of x for both of these. I always like to put a box around them to remind me that there's a corresponding value of x to be found, because the question says what are the coordinates, yeah, what are the points of intersection, what are the points of intersection. So we're going to take 3 over 25 back up to this equation here. Where is it now? That's going to help me to find x. Just let me scroll up here. There we are. So you see up here I've got an equation that allows me to find x. So I'm going to take 3 over 25 back up here. So x equals minus 7 times 3 over 25 plus 4. Okay, so minus 7 times 3 over 25. So that becomes minus 21 over 25. Now you think about this for a moment, because I'm going to deal with 25ths. Minus 7 times 3 is minus 21 over 25. And then 4 is exactly the same as 100 over 25, which will give me the value of x as 100 minus 21, which is 79. So it's going to be 79 over 25. And that's what goes in there. So that's the first point. And then the second point, well, that's quite easy to do. You put 1 in for y. So that's going to become x equals minus 7 times 1 plus 4. So x is equal to minus 7 plus 4 minus 3. So the first point is going to be 79 over 25, comma 3 over 25. If you're doing honours maths, you have to be used to fractions in your answers. And then the second answer is going to be minus 3, 1. So they're your 2 points of intersection. Okay, so that's question 4. Question 5. Question 5, oh, what part did I ask you to do in that one? Oh dear, I can't remember, I haven't got them marked. Anyway, they're the same as question 4, so I'm going to leave question 5 for you to do. It's too long. So I'm just going to follow what I did in question 4 and do the same in question 5. Let's move up to page 307 and let's take a look at question 9. Page 307, question 9. Okay, A is minus 3, 1. B is 0, minus 5. And P is xy. Okay. If the distance between A and P is equal to 2 times the distance between B and P, excuse me, prove that x and y satisfy the equation. Now, in other words, do what the question tells you to do. Look, the distance of AP, and we want to prove that it's equal to 2 times the distance between B and P. So those 2 straight lines mean the distance. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the distance of AP using the distance formula. And the distance formula is x2 minus x1 to be squared plus y2 minus y1 to be squared. So you're just doing what the question tells you to do. And you're using A and P as your points in this formula. So A and P. So x2 minus x1, that becomes x minus minus 3, which becomes x plus 3 to be squared, plus y2 minus y1 becomes y minus 1 to be squared. Okay, so put that in over here. It's the distance, it's the square root of x plus 3 to be squared plus y minus 1 to be squared. Now, don't worry about getting the square root just yet, for the very simple reason that there's going to be another square root on the other side, and you'll be able to square them and cancel them that way. So don't make life complicated, okay? If you know that one square root is going to be equal to another square root, well then leave the square roots in until the end, then just square everything and they'll disappear, okay? So that's AP. Now we want to work out the distance between B and P. So again, you're using the same formula, but this time your points are B and P, okay? So x2 minus x1, which becomes x, that's just x squared, because it's x minus 0, which is x, plus y2 minus minus 5. Minus minus 5 is y plus 5 to be squared. So there's BP, but this is going to be 2 times the square root of x squared plus y plus 5 to b squared. So you're just doing what the question tells you. So I worked out the distance of AP. There it is there. I put that underneath AP. Then I worked out the distance of BP, which is this one here, and then put a 2 in front of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square everything. Square everything. And the reason for that is to get rid of the square roots, okay? So when you square this side, you get x plus 3 to be squared, plus y minus 1 to be squared. And when you square the other side, you get 4 times x squared plus y plus 5 to b squared. Now, that doesn't look like anything like your answer. Your answer is supposed to be x squared plus y squared minus 2x plus 14y plus 30 equals 0. What do? You've got to work this thing out, okay? Now, you're lucky. They're all binomials. So at this stage, you should know exactly what to do with all your binomials. So let's do that. Square x plus 3, x squared plus 6x plus 9. Square y minus 1, y squared minus 2y plus 1. 4 times x squared plus, and let's square this thing out here, y squared plus 10y plus 25. And that's it, okay? So what do we get? We get x squared plus 6x plus 9 plus y squared minus 2y plus 1 equals 4x squared, 4y squared, 40y plus 100. Okay, so it doesn't look like anything yet, but here's where the magic happens. So the first thing we've got to do now is bring everything to one side. You notice that the x squared, the y squared, the x, the y, and the 30, they're all together on the left-hand side. So we're going to bring them all to one side. Doesn't matter what side you bring them to. Because 4x squared and 4y squared are already on the right-hand side, I'm going to carry all of these over here, okay? So 4x squared minus x squared is 3x squared. Y squared minus y, 4y squared minus y squared is 3y squared. 40y plus 2y is plus 42y. And 100 minus 1 minus 9 is 90. And that's equal to 0. So I carried all of them over here. So watch it again. 4x squared minus x squared is 3x squared. 4y squared minus y squared, 3y squared. 40y minus 2y, which is plus 2y, by the way, because it's minus minus 2y, becomes 42. And 100 minus 10 is 90. All of these I hope are divisible by 3, because don't forget, our answer has to be x squared plus y squared. So let's do this. Well, where's my x's? I did forget my x's. Sorry, hold on. I forgot my little x there. Let me just do that again. So, 4x squared minus x squared, 3x squared. Okay. 4y squared minus y squared, 3y squared. Now, don't forget, this is minus 6x. You've got to bring that over as well. So, minus 6x. And now let's divide by 3. What do we get? X squared, y squared, minus 2x. 3 in there goes 14 times, so 14y, and 3 into 90 goes 30. Just check your book. What does it say? The book says x squared plus y squared, good, minus 2x plus 14y plus 30 is equal to 0. So what I was actually being asked in that question to do was to build it using the distance formula between A and P and 2 times the distance formula between B and P, writing them down as the roots and squaring everything to get your equation of the circle. Okay, last one, question 12. Now, question 12, a circle has equation x minus 2 to be squared plus y minus 3 to be squared is equal to 9. Now, before I go any further, because it's given to me in this form here, I know its center and I know its radius. And I always write them down. If you can write them down, write them down. The center is 2, 3. It's these two, x minus h to be squared plus y minus k to be squared. The center is hk. So the center is going to be 2, 3. And the radius is going to be the square root of the last number, which is 3. Okay, so that's two pieces. I might never use them, but it's two pieces of information that I can pull out of that equation. A and C are the coordinates of 2 points. Okay, so we've got A, which is the point minus 1, 3. And we have B, which is the point 5, 3. And we're told that they're coordinates of 2 points. Okay. Number 1, show that the x-axis is a tangent to S. Now, if the x-axis is a tangent to the circle S, then when I put in 0 for y, because don't forget, if the x-axis is a tangent, on the x-axis, there's no y. So therefore, at the x-axis, y is equal to 0. So at the x-axis, y is equal to 0. Now, if I put 0 in for y, then what I'm going to be left with up here should be something that that gives me the radius of 3. So let's do that. Let's go up to this circle here, or to the equation of the circle. So 0 goes in here for y, and that leaves me with x minus 2 to be squared. That goes in there, and that leaves you with minus 3 to be squared, which is 9, equals 9. See that? So therefore, what do we end up with? They're going to cancel. That leaves you with 0. So you get x squared plus, minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 0. And when you solve that, what do you end up with? X minus 2 equals 0. That gives me x equals 2. Which is correct, because go back up here. The x-axis is 2 units away, which it tells me it is in this case, so that's correct. So the x-axis is a tangent to S. Okay, prove that AB is a diameter of S. So you want to prove that AB, which is a line that goes right through the circle, is the diameter of S. Now, if it's a diameter of S, think about this as a question, or diagram, I should say. The center is 2, 3. We know that. Okay. They want you to prove that the line AB is a diameter. What's another way to say that? That the midpoint of AB is 2, 3. See that? So the midpoint of AB is 2, 3. So what I'm being asked to do there is I'm being asked to get the midpoint of AB. So using these 2 points here, I want to get their midpoint. Now, you do know what the midpoint is. Midpoint is a formula. And it's in your tables. And it's x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Okay, so all I've got to do with these two is add them together. So x1 plus x2 is 4, 4 over 2 is 2, and then 3 plus 3 is 6 over 2 is 3. Is the center of AB the same as the midpoint of the circle? Yes, and because it's the center of the circle, that means that AB must be running through the center from end to end, which means AB is a diameter. Okay, AB is a diameter. Same thing again. Now I'm going to leave you do number 3 because I just did that in part in number 9. So I'm going to leave you at part 3 to do. Again, you get the distance between A and P. You get the distance between B and P, leave them as square roots, put a third in front of the root that represents the distance between B and P, square both sides, and then it says show that the locus of P is a circle. So in other words, when you do in part 3 what I did in question 9, you should end up with the equation of a circle. Okay, and then it says label this circle T. So once you get the formula, then I'm going to leave you with the rest of these to do yourself actually. Find the center and radius of length T. You can read that from the equation once you get it. Prove that T does not intersect the x-axis, which means you put 0 in for y and your answer should be something different to 2. And lastly then, using the same axis and scales, just draw them. Okay, so I'm going to leave those 3 for you to do because I've already done it in question 9. Part 3 of question 12 is the same as question 9, and once you build your equation, then pull out the center and pull out the radius. Okay, a lot of work involved there, but I do ask you go through those questions and make sure you understand exactly where they come from. Okay, any further questions you can let me know.